Mixdown Media Productions.
Today's episode of The Podcast Therapist comes ad-free. Get faster releases with no delays and minimal to no ads, all while directly supporting the podcast. Subscribe today at thepodcasttherapist.com/ad-free or visit the show notes or description of your podcast player to get started. Today on The Podcast Therapist, we're diving into the essentials for YouTube podcasting success in 2025 and how you grow your audience, boost the engagement, and of course, the thing that everyone loves, monetization, and how you can monetize your content like a pro. So stick around for these tips and so much more on the podcast for January 9th of 2025.
When you're one unbalanced piece of audio from losing your This is the Podcast Therapist.
That's right. Welcome to another episode of the Podcast Therapist. I'm your host, Shannon Hernandez, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and podcast producer. And today, the podcast, of course, is the podcast that is helping business owners, podcast businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, helping all of them leverage the tools to attract their ideal listener, subscriber, and of course, their potential new customer. And today we're going to be talking about this YouTube live event that I attended back in December. I've been wanting to create this episode for quite some time, or this particular program, just because the information that was in that live event about YouTube podcasts was so valuable, and I wanted to create it. And because the video that YouTube had published is now private, you can't view it anywhere else. But I did take notes, and I wanted to be able to share those notes with you if you're thinking about doing something with video podcasts going into 2025. But first, I want to thank you guys for understanding my personal situation that I got going on. If you missed out on last week's episode, you learned that I have a bit of a challenge in my life right now, and that challenge is ongoing. It's daily. In fact, I got a phone call this morning asking that I go out and I hang out with some family members. So I'm recording this episode in the morning on January 8th. It'll release on January 9th. And of course, it's just, you're trying to manage your life. And that's, I think, just the typical nature of being a podcaster, is that you're trying to record at certain times that fit within your schedule. So I do want to thank you guys so much for understanding my situation and being flexible with me. That is very, very important to me. So thank you so much. Now let's talk about this YouTube live event that I've been wanting to talk about. All right. Now in 2024, there were so many predictions where people were talking about, hey, video podcast is going to be the thing that is going to change the game in 2025. You got to be doing video. If you're not doing video, then you're being left behind. And I'm just going to say, pump the brakes. We need to really examine whether or not a video podcast is going to work for you. I, though, am leaning more towards yes, it should work for you. It's going to expand your audience. But let's just jump into it first. I'm curious to know whether or not people are actually going to be following through with these recommendations. And what I would like to call these people who are, I wouldn't say the people who are going to do video podcasts, but let's just take the podcast purist. The person has been doing an audio podcast from the beginning of time, and now they think to themselves, God, now I've got to go ahead and I've got to create a whole new piece of content. That is exhausting. Video content, or there's this also, there's this fear of being in front of the camera, and you don't want to be seen at all. That was the whole allure of podcasting, is that you could be behind the microphone and no one could ever see your face. I completely get it and I understand, but we're starting to see trends change, right? We're starting to see those more people get on YouTube and transforming their videos into podcasts, and those podcasts into audio podcasts. So podcasting is going to evolve just as much as the internet has evolved, just as much as life has evolved. And I think that's the one thing that is always going to be constant, is the change. We have to remember that the change is always going to be constant. So back in 2023, I attended Podcast Movement in Denver, Colorado, and I went to one of the final keynotes of the event. It was on the last day, from what I remember, and I believe it was Steve Goldstein from Amplify Media. And he gave a talk. I think it was Steve Goldstein, but either way, Steve Goldstein had mentioned that video podcasting was going to be the new thing. They were talking about it at the end of 2023 going into 2024, and we start seeing more and more video podcasts come up into the marketplace, and people are starting to make that marketplace or make it what it is today. It's still evolving. It's brand new, but it's still evolving. But it's not so brand new as to, if you're looking at it from the perspective, if you're looking at traditional media, video podcasting already exists in sports. If you look at it already, look at Bill Coward, look at Rich Eisen. Those are all basically podcasts. They turn them into podcasts. So it's nothing that is new. It's just something that may be new to you. All right. So in that event in 2023, a podcast movement, Steve Goldstein talked about video podcasts. And then I took this quote from Triton Digital. I'll leave a link for this article in the show notes today or the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can check out the description. It will have the link to that. The show notes will also have it as well. But here's a quote from Triton Digital's article. Quote, "Like it or not, the definition of a podcast is changing." In their session, Amplify Media CEO Steve Goldstein and Jay Naklis, vice president of research firm Coleman Insights, outlined their latest study on how people consume podcasts. Though listeners still use multiple apps for podcast consumption, 75% of their participants define podcasts as both being audio and video. They also identified YouTube as being the most used app for podcast consumption. So I understand where you may have some hesitation about creating a video podcast, and that is completely understandable. Maybe the idea of creating a podcast that is video that can be transformed into audio seems daunting from the perspective of getting in front of the camera. Maybe the prospect or the idea of creating a video podcast lies in the optimization that you have no idea how to do. I get it. I understand. Maybe the hesitation just comes in the fact that, I'm doing an audio podcast and it's doing well already, so I don't need to do it anymore. I completely understand. But your hesitation to do a video podcast, that might be preventing you from accessing an audience of listeners that you knew never existed. And I say this as a person, as a consumer of content, that I am not on every platform. I do not consume as much content on other platforms as I do on others. I'm a big consumer of Instagram. I'm a big consumer of Threads. And just most recently, I'm now more of a big consumer on LinkedIn because of the audience that I'm trying to attract and for the connections that I'm trying to make. That seems very self-serving, but if you're creating a podcast for business, it's not self-serving. You're just trying to serve the world by being in front of the right people. And that's the mindset that I think we all have to start thinking about. So your hesitation might be preventing you from reaching a different audience. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when I watch YouTube videos, I have different videos that come up in my feed. Not all of them are on, podcasting. A lot of them are entertainment based. They used to, and that algorithm had changed at one point in time. In fact, the algorithm had changed at one point in time on YouTube to where I was getting videos on people doing tours of Russia and Ukraine, and I don't know how that happened, but I got sucked in. And then, of course, on one video, once you watch one video, then you start getting all the recommendations for everything else. So that is something that I think is that you have to take with you, is that understanding that when you get a recommendation in YouTube, it can lead to a viewer or a listener consuming more of your content. So I want to share with you 5 hard truths why your podcast needs to be on YouTube. Now, I wouldn't say these are like crazy hard truths, but they're those things where it's like a friend that meets up with you for dinner or lunch and they tell you, why don't you just do the thing? I mean, you're already doing this. Just go ahead and take the extra step. And then you go, I don't know. These are the 5 hard truths that I want to share with you. And then we're going to get into this information that I got on that YouTube live event and what you need to do. There's a lot of information packed today. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover it all in the hour that I have. Okay. So number 1 of the 5 hard truths, audio only is limiting your reach. Now, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. if you didn't know this already. And you should be utilizing YouTube in some way for your business marketing. Billions of users are actively using their search to get content daily. And people are now discovering podcasts through YouTube playlists. They're discovering them through shorts and, of course, related videos that are optimized for SEO, not just RSS feeds. You're limited through RSS feeds, but with YouTube, recommendations just keep coming. So the hard truth is that you might be leaving a massive untapped audience on the table. Think about that. Give yourself time to reflect on whether or not you can optimize or you can create a podcast for YouTube. And if you're going to see a return on that investment. All signs are pointing to yes. Point number 2 of the 5 hard truths. The future of podcasting is visual. Podcasting trends, like I said, they're evolving, and video podcasting is now becoming the norm. I would say Joe Rogan was the one that popularized this, and then, of course, it just filtered on down to other content creators. So video adds engagement through facial expressions, visuals, body language. I mean, I can't tell you right now, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can't see that I'm using my hands. You can't see the facial expressions. You can't see exactly what I'm emoting. I said that a little weird, right? Emoting. But you can't see what I'm emoting. And that adds a whole new level, a whole new level or an element to how podcasts are consumed. Audiences, they want a stronger connection. If audio was already a strong connection, it was very intimate and in your ear, the visual aspect adds a new layer to that. So the hard truth is that in 3 to 5 years, if you're not doing video, your podcast will feel like it's outdated, like it's a relic. Number 3, audio only limits your monetization opportunities. Sponsorships for audio podcasts, they rely heavily on larger audiences. So when you're getting a sponsor or you're presenting to a sponsor, you need to have a certain amount of downloads that sponsor is looking for. And the numbers are based on a CPM model. And that's how you'll get paid out. There's very many different ways on how you do this, whether that's going to be direct to the content creator or it's done through some ad sharing process. Either way, you need to have far more downloads in order to see the monetization opportunities be worth it. YouTube now is offering multiple income streams like ad revenue, memberships, and of course merch, which we will get into. So when you think about it as a content creator on YouTube, even a small YouTuber who is a podcaster, a small YouTube audience can generate more income than a larger audio-only podcast. Think about that. Because of the audience reach that you're getting on YouTube, it is very, very possible. So the hard truth is saying, if you're avoiding video, you're limiting your ability to monetize. Now, I want to add one more thing into this, is that if we are monetizing, I don't think you should have one line of income. I don't think YouTube should be just the single line of income. I think that you need to have multiple lines of income. All right. Point number 4 of the 5 hard truths. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Point number 4 is that people don't share audio clips. For many years, we were using audiograms, but people were like, when you were going into the social media feeds, you saw this waveform that was just jumping up and down. People were like, what is this? And then they would click on it and they would listen to it and they're like, okay, big deal. We know that social media is dominated by video content. Every day when you whether you're logging into Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, LinkedIn, it's all visual. So video podcasts, they create these shareable, attention-grabbing clips for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and you can share those and direct people to your podcast, all right? So just think about it. If you're still sharing audiograms, they still don't generate the same virality. They're not doing that. So the hard truth is that video is the language of social media. That's something that you're going to have to realize and evolve to. I believe you have to evolve to it. If you don't want to evolve to it, that's fine. That's completely fine. But you're going to have to think of a new marketing strategy to get new customers in the door. And the fifth point here is that avoiding video is fear-based, not strategy-based. As a podcast business owner, as a podcast business, you need to start thinking about strategy instead of being afraid of doing this. Many podcasters, they avoid video because they just fear they're uncomfortable or they lack equipment. We are going to get into that with this YouTube live event that I took notes on. Your audience, they're going to care more about the content, all right? So that's something that you need to think about. Video is going to force you to push past excuses and show up as the expert that you are. Provide the value that you already know within the niche or the field or your business. Provide the value. If you are a pool company and you install brand new pools and you want to get on YouTube to start marketing your business, you're the expert. Create videos around that. People want the expertise. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at home improvement videos, most recently videos on car repair, and the videos are all shaky, but the guy is teaching me exactly what I need to do and what to watch out for. So the hard truth here is that this is more about you. This is more about you, not your audience, all right? And that's the wrong mindset to have. Again, this is about you, not your audience. Don't be afraid to create a podcast, a video podcast. People are looking for the value inside of this. And I think that is something that you will want to take into 2025 that will allow you to build a better podcast. All right. I got to get a little bit of a drink right now. My throat is kind of, I got a little frog in my throat. But when we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to go over that podcast YouTube event, I said that backwards. That YouTube podcast event that happened on December 12th. That's all coming up next on The Podcast Therapist.
Podcast Therapist.
Launching a podcast can be overwhelming. You've got your equipment, a Zoom account, and a few episodes recorded, but what's next for a successful launch? The biggest mistake podcasters make is not having a proper launch sequence. Just like building a house requires a solid blueprint to ensure it stands strong, your podcast needs a strategic plan to enter the market successfully. Introducing the Podcast Launch Checklist, developed after helping numerous clients. This guide ensures your podcast launch is smooth and efficient. It's a 12-step sequence covering pre-launch, mid-launch, and post-launch phases with clear instructions to save you time and prevent mistakes. The checklist provides crucial pre-launch information and includes checklists to ensure nothing is missed. Plus, you'll get access to vetted resources, making your launch more efficient. Don't wander in the dark. Get the Podcast Launch Checklist today and launch your podcast with confidence. Visit thepodcasttherapist.com/PLC to get 25% off this checklist.
If you're trying to grow your YouTube channel, let me tell you about a tool that's made a huge difference in my life. It's called TubeBuddy. How's it going? It's Shannon. And when I started using TubeBuddy back in 2019, I realized that if I wanted my videos to actually get views, I needed to focus on YouTube SEO. But figuring out what topics would work, which keywords to target, and how to optimize my videos, honestly, it felt completely overwhelming. And that's where TubeBuddy came in and completely changed the game for me. With their Chrome extension, TubeBuddy gives me a dashboard right inside YouTube that shows me which keywords are competitive and which ones are worth targeting. And it's not just for pre-recorded uploads. I use it for my live video streams too. And after I finish a live stream, I can go back, tweak the title, add better keywords, and optimize the video so it has a real shot at getting discovered. And here's one of my favorite features. I can revamp older videos that didn't perform as well as I had hoped. TubeBuddy gives me the tools to update the keywords, descriptions, and even titles so those videos can rank better over time. Now, if you're serious about getting your podcast noticed on YouTube, you got to check out TubeBuddy at thepodcasttherapist.com/TubeBuddy. Now that's my affiliate link, so if you decide to give it a try, I may earn a small commission and no extra cost to you, but I'd recommend it if I wasn't an affiliate. Again, you could check it out at thepodcasttherapist.com/TubeBuddy or check the link in the show notes of this podcast right now. Hey guys, it's Shannon, and I want to take a moment to share one of my favorite tools for podcasting and live streaming. It's called Ecamm. I've been using it since 2022, and it's completely changed how I create my content. Now, when I first started, I used Ecamm for just simple videos. Even at a basic level, it saved me so much time, letting me record directly to my computer with no need to use SD cards or transferring files to a computer. But as I got more serious about my podcast, I discovered just how powerful Ecamm really is. I can now stream live to my YouTube and record the entire show at the same time, complete with separate audio and video tracks for editing. I've built custom scenes with animations, graphics, and overlays that make my live streams a lot better and a little more professional. Plus, inviting guests is a breeze, and I just send them to a private link and they join me in a virtual green room before going live. Ecamm is hands down the tool that I rely on for every podcast and live stream I do. And if you're ready to take your content to the next level, check it out by using my affiliate link at thepodcasttherapist.com/Ecamm or check the link in the show notes below. That means if you decide to give it a try, I might earn a small commission at no extra cost to you, but honestly, I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't use it myself. When I first started using Ecamm for my video podcasts, everything felt like a juggling act. If I needed to switch a camera or scene, I'd have to pick up my mouse, align it just right, and hope I clicked fast enough to keep things smooth. I mean, it worked, but it was definitely slower and it slowed me down. How's it going? It's Shannon, and of course that all changed for me when my friend Jeff introduced me to the Elgato Stream Deck. I started with the Stream Deck MK.2, which has 15 customizable macro keys, and it has completely revolutionized my production workflow. With the Stream Deck, I can seamlessly control Ecamm for live streams, video podcasts, and so much more. It also works with platforms like StreamYard, giving you the ability to toggle your microphone, switch layouts, or manage your stream, all from the press of a button. It's like having a live production assistant at your fingertips. And what I love is that I can customize each key with its own thumbnail, so I always know exactly what action I'm triggering. Whether it's switching scenes, launching apps, or controlling my live stream, it's incredibly intuitive, and it works on both Mac and PC. In fact, I've even been thinking about upgrading to the Stream Deck XL, which has 32 keys for more functionality. So if you're ready to level up your podcast or live stream production, check out the Elgato Stream Deck at thepodcasttherapist.com/Stream Deck or find the link in the show notes today. That's my affiliate link, so I may earn a small commission if you decide to try it. Seriously, it's one of the best tools I've ever used, and I think you're gonna like it too.
Are you a small online business owner looking to get a head start in growing your email list and attracting new customers? You've got no time for guesswork. Hi there, I'm Nadia Solo, and I have been helping small business owners just like you with all things sales funnels and automations on Kajabi since 2020. Click on the link in the show notes to download my Lead Magnet Essential Checklist to find out about a proven 5x5 formula for creating lead magnets. Gain a solid understanding of what it takes to create your first or next lead magnet and start seeing your email list skyrocket. Visit www.solositesolutions.com/TPT to download the checklist now. No more confusion, just practical steps to elevate your lead generation strategy.
Mixdown. It's time for the Mixdown on the Podcast Therapist.
That's right, time for the mix down. This is the segment where we mix down an idea, a thought, a process, and we boil it down to where it can be understood as the nuts and bolts of what you do exactly in terms of steps, all right? Now we're talking about the YouTube live event that I did attend on December 12th. And so we'll get into that here very shortly. I do want to remind you that if you want to go ad-free with this particular episode, you can go ahead and check it out at thepodcasttherapist.com/ad-free. I am toying with the idea of just giving you a freak at what this looks like. So you'll get a free trial of this particular podcast itself. And then, of course, if you like it, hopefully you can help support the podcast itself. Supporting the podcast helps me come up with these ideas, helps me come up with the production of the particular podcast itself, and allows me to deliver the value and content that you deserve for your own content development. So again, if you want to become a member, a subscriber of the Podcast Therapist, behind the scenes, ad free, go to the Podcast Therapist YouTube.com/ad-free, or you can check the link in the show notes below. All right. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of this because there's so much that I got to get through. All right. But we'll do our best today to try to cover all the information. All right. So this YouTube podcast event was held on December 12th of 2024, and it was with the global head of podcasting and one of the product leads that is over there at YouTube. And they were answering questions on how to leverage YouTube podcasts. And so I wasn't able to attend live, but I was so glad that I was able to watch it after the fact. And my intention was to do it live so that I could get this out for people. But hey, better late than never. Okay, right? So I want to jump in and I want to talk to you about, I don't know if it's necessarily 25 points. They had about 25 points they talked about in an hour-long session on YouTube. And I've whittled it down to about 18. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into I guess basically how they started that live stream on YouTube, talking about YouTube podcasts. And I may mention a question, and that might have been the question that they asked in the live stream. But I do have my points. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see I have all my points listed right here. I've written them all down so that you can see exactly how many there are. So let's go ahead and get started. So point number one, when they started the live stream, they really made a massive point and effort to say that when you're creating a YouTube podcast, you want to make sure that you're uploading the video natively to YouTube versus having an RSS feed. So what you're doing when you're creating a YouTube podcast is that you create the YouTube podcast by going into your account, and there's a create button on the top right-hand side of YouTube. And right there, when you click that button, it will give you options, and that option will say create a podcast. And then of course, from there, you can go through the steps, get the RSS feed from your hosting provider for your audio podcast, and plug it in to YouTube. And what YouTube will do is that it will import all of your past episodes and put them on a channel. And they'll put them on your channel, and you can create them as a playlist for your podcast. All right. There is going to be a caveat to this. I'll get into this here in a little bit, because there's that is very unique about publishing podcasts to YouTube. If you're doing it this way, not all the time will you need to import from you. Well, I shouldn't say import, but not all the time will you need to publish an audio podcast that will go to YouTube. If you're doing a video podcast, it needs to be uploaded natively. You've got to create the video, and then the video needs to be uploaded natively to YouTube, not the other way around, not on your audio RSS feed. So we'll keep that in mind, all right? So that is a huge point you need to take into account, all right? Now, then they had a question on the live feed that said, point number 2, how does YouTube define a podcast? Well, they defined it by saying that they are videos that are part of a playlist. It is indicated whenever you set up your podcast for YouTube. So my point here is that you're still creating video for YouTube, but they are parsing it down, or they are categorizing it as a podcast, specifically a podcast. All right. So it can be a video, but you will now have this opportunity to listen to the podcast as a video inside of YouTube Music, or you can listen to it. You can listen to it as audio, or you can watch it as video in YouTube Music. You can find the podcast inside of YouTube Music, and in search. We'll get into that here very shortly. So this is how YouTube defines a podcast. They are videos that are a part of a playlist. Point number 3, growing a podcast. The head of podcasting, the global head of podcasting, made it a point to say that these are the important points that you need to take into account when you're publishing a podcast, a video podcast to YouTube. Metadata, your thumbnails, and your podcast descriptions need to be SEO friendly. So let's break that down. Let's start with thumbnails. Going a little bit out of order here, but that's okay. The thumbnails, they need to be engaging, and you shouldn't use the same thumbnail over and over. What you're seeing from a lot of content creators is they just use the same thumbnail of the goofy face, some goofy face, and they just change the title on the thumbnail. And YouTube says that doesn't work. you need to create a more unique thumbnail for your podcast so that when it is viewed in the search engine results page on YouTube, that it is more unique and people can go to it. And I do agree with this because this is a branding thing. You have your overall brand, but you're going to have individual branding for your thumbnails. And it's important that you create unique thumbnails. Next one is you got to create great descriptions that are SEO friendly. I've known this since creating videos on YouTube. Create great descriptions that are SEO friendly, and I will teach you about that in a bonus episode of the Podcast Therapist. In fact, it is available right now on the ad-free version if you want to check it out for yourself. Go over and grab it and listen to it, and you can see how you create those great descriptions. The next point number 3, actually, this is the sub-point number 3. If you have an audio-first podcast, the transcripts, they're huge and they're searchable inside of YouTube. This is going to be the SRT file that you're going to upload. So if you're transcribing your video, or I would say, or maybe your audio, you want to make sure that you're getting not only the TXT file, but you're also getting the SRT file that you can upload into YouTube, and you'll go back to your catalog, your back catalog of podcasts, and upload the right transcript, which will be the SRT file, so those transcripts can go across the screen. Not only are those transcripts great for people who are maybe in environments at work where they are reading and they can't listen too much, or I wouldn't say or, I would say and, those transcripts are searchable inside of YouTube. So just remember that, okay? Now, if you have a video first podcast, here's what they recommended. They said, don't focus on the high-end production of things. Don't focus on that. All you got to do is just make great content. Just be authentic. That's all you need to do. As you can see, if you're watching my podcast on YouTube right now, I'm recording in my home office. I've got like a galaxy lamp going on in the background. You can see my closet doors. I don't have some high-end production. It's just me, but I am using tools like Ecamm that allow me to create the podcast that I want. And I will evolve that over time. So you don't need to buy super expensive equipment. You just need to have the right equipment. One example of this is that I saw a post last night on LinkedIn from one of my clients, and he said, getting ready to podcast in Seattle. And it was a picture of his podcast setup. He was doing it mobily. And it was his camera. I think he had like a DSLR camera, his laptop, and his microphone. That's all he had. And the backdrop, he didn't care. He didn't care whatsoever. It can be as simple as that for you. So don't get too wrapped up in these high-end productions. Sometimes all you just need to do is record, okay? So those were 4 subpoints of my third point. Let's go into the fourth point. Let's talk about distributing your podcast and how you get it out there so that people can consume it, all right? So when it comes to distribution, on YouTube, you'll want to add your video to a podcast playlist every single time. So once you have published your podcast, you want to start first with publishing on YouTube, okay? You'll publish it to YouTube, and then it has to be added to a playlist. Now, a sub-point to distribution is, they had a question, should I do video and, let me reread that question again. Should I do video and audio as a podcast? And they said that either path is successful, but uploading both might create confusion and duplicate content. So this is where it's important to understand and know that when you are creating that RSS feed inside of YouTube, that you need to not create duplicate content. I talk more about that in my bonus episode that is at thepodcasttherapist.com/ad-free. You'll see it right there for you. Okay? So I'll talk more about that in that bonus episode. Point number 5. They made a big stink about this one. Thumbnail testing. You need to be testing your thumbnails, A/B testing them. They say that it is effective and it is a key part of getting your podcast, your video podcast, visible and in front of people. So there is a tool that I talk about in the bonus episode about this A/B testing and how to use it. So just keep that in mind, all right? Number 6, promoting a podcast. This is the thing that all podcasters are really, really excited about. When you promote a podcast, YouTube has said you should not have a separate channel to promote clips of your podcast. What you're seeing with a lot of these creators is that these big accounts, they have a large audience, so many subscribers on YouTube, and then they create a sub channel so they can share clips of their podcast that is on their main channel. But YouTube is saying, no, don't do this. It's actually bad if you do this. They say that promoting a podcast is better to have clips on the same channel because the subscribers can get the notifications on the channel itself that when there is new content. And I'm only assuming that this is good for the algorithm to show that you are publishing regular content. So that is something that I think you need to start thinking about when it comes to the promotion of your podcast. All right. Point number 7, we're going to talk about podcast monetization. This is a big one in terms of YouTube. I've been monetized on podcasts, and I will give you an example of first about how I got monetized on YouTube. Okay. When I was creating videos on YouTube, the key thing here was that I was consistent. I was consistent in developing and publishing content on the regular weekly. And as I continued to do that and I started to get more views on my channel, YouTube opened up the opportunity for me to monetize that content. I also got monetized in other areas through sponsorships and whatnot. But YouTube is one line of income that you can utilize for your podcast. As I mentioned in the last segment, I talked about how audio-only podcasts, they rely on a larger number of downloads, a larger number of listens, so that you can take it to a sponsor and you can pitch to them, or they come to you and they say, we will pay you so much if you tell us how many downloads that you get. And there's a whole formula that goes with this. And in that formula, in my opinion, it kind of short sells you, actually. If you're interested in that formula, you can reach out to me and I will tell you about what it is. I've talked about it on my previous YouTube videos. But I think you're worth more than that. As a business owner, it's worth your time to find new lines of income that are coming into your podcast that are easier to get. So let's talk about point 7, podcast monetization. Where can you monetize on YouTube? Well, here are 5 subpoints. Ad space revenue through AdSense. So you'll need to sign up for an AdSense account when you are approved to monetize on YouTube. When you are approved, you can get the access to shopping and developing merch. One of the channels that I subscribe to is a channel on automotive repair. And that guy is selling oil. He is selling car parts. He's selling just about anything on his YouTube channel. And think about what you can do. I'm only assuming that channel that he has created are affiliate links that go to, say, an Amazon account, but he is earning a commission somewhere. So he's finding ways to monetize his podcast. Or I wouldn't say his podcast, I would say his videos, because they're more tutorial how-to videos. Subpoint number 3, channel memberships. If you can get a membership on YouTube, that is something that you can monetize. Now, keep in mind, when you do channel memberships will have a cut taken from you. YouTube, I think, will take like 30% or something like that of your channel membership. So you got to figure it out what is going to work best for you. Point number 4 is that, and you've seen it before on YouTube, is that live streams and super chats are huge. You can get donations. You can get monetization through live streams and super chats, especially if you have a large audience. That is huge. And shorts, the final point in podcast monetization. You can monetize through shorts. They talked about that. You'll likely need to have an AdSense account. All right. So those are all my 5 sub points there. Let's go to point number 8. What is the future of podcasts as they discussed in the YouTube Live event on December 12th? Well, the future of podcasts, they said, is that it's going to be more visibility in search, more visibility on the Google Assistant app. So think about it this way. Anytime that you are doing a search inside of Google, and I would even say ChatGPT, don't take my word on that. Let's remove the ChatGPT part about it. Let's just focus on the Google part of it. Okay. ChatGPT is a great assistant in my opinion. I talk about that in the bonus episode, but we are focusing on search and discovery. When you see, or when you do a search inside of Google, you have seen before videos that come up recommended for people to consume. I've known about this since developing videos for YouTube, but now you are creating podcasts that will now show up in search. And come on, it's like a no-brainer to me if you ask me that. So I would be optimizing for search. Point number 9 here, or I guess I'm not on point 9. I don't know what point I'm on. I had 10 points before, and then of course I went into this different sheet that I have and I didn't number it right. Maybe I did. I don't know. Sorry about that. But let's go ahead and call it point number 9. The best practice for promoting a podcast on YouTube is guest collaborators. If you can collaborate with a guest, have them promote the episode on social media. All right. Their strategy behind this, I do not take a guest collaboration for granted. I want to make sure that I have the elements of my lead magnets, everything set up on the back end. So by the time I go into doing a guest collaboration, if someone is helping me, I have all the pieces set back end. If it's the other way around, I'm just doing my best to push the traffic to that person to help them out. It's mutually beneficial. So think of it that way. Point number 10. This is something I think, and I want to highlight this in today's podcast episode. Point number 10, titles and show naming. This is going to be huge for you because most YouTubers, well, I shouldn't say most YouTubers, I would say most podcasters trying to do YouTube are titling their episodes wrong. As YouTube has said it, and what I have known from publishing videos on YouTube, the episodes on YouTube, they need to be SEO titles. They cannot be episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, because that's not how people search in YouTube. So how do you get the SEO titles that you need? Well, I do that by using TubeBuddy. Using TubeBuddy has been one of my favorite tools for getting my videos seen and put in front of the right people. This is not an ad, but I do have ads about TubeBuddy in my podcast. But I'm going to tell you right now, TubeBuddy allows you to find the right keywords and create the titles that are they're optimized. This is what they are. They just have SEO titles that will help you get in front of the right people. There's a link for TubeBuddy in the description of this particular podcast on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it's in the show notes of the app itself. So don't use episode 1, episode 2. Those naming conventions will not work. They will not benefit you. This is huge. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this podcast is that the titling of your podcast is probably the most important thing here. Okay. Point number 11, and this is something that I've been talking about since I spoke at Podcast Movement back in I don't know when that was. It was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago. I can't remember. But segmenting your podcast, excuse me, segmenting your podcast through time codes and chapters. I have talked about this philosophy of segmenting your podcast because it not only allows people to go and skip to the content that they are looking for, but it allows you and gives you a bit of a break. It allows you to time code later down the line. It allows you to create better content. YouTube has said, and I'm going to quote them right here. They say, chapters are super positive, so please use them. So if you're going to make YouTube happy, this is what you got to do. Segment your podcast. Time codes and chapters help increase the listen and watch time. It seems counterintuitive, but actually it makes sense. Because if they are skipping to a point that they want to listen to, likely they will continue to listen or watch. Because I know that's what I've done. Maybe that's just what I do. I don't know. So segment your podcast. We could talk about more about that. I discuss a little bit about this in that bonus episode that is available right now. Number 12, engagement. Now, when we talk about engaging your audience on YouTube, there's many different ways that we can engage our podcast audience, whether that be through audio only or video. There's different ways. So we're going to be focusing specifically on YouTube. And the question they had was, is comment engagement worth it? And they said, yes, it is worth it, because live streams and mentioning names, that helps push that video, right? It helps push that video. So by responding and liking the comments in a timely manner, it continues to help push that video. It shows that it is relevant. You have a certain amount of time when that video releases. So if you can push as many comments, push as many people to that video, you might actually start seeing that video gain some traction and get out into the feed a little bit more. Point number 13, live streams. Boy, this was a huge one that they talked about. Someone had asked in the audience, they said, can I make my live stream a podcast? And they said, emphatically, yes. All you have to do is just add it to a playlist. They say there are many creators out there that are just creating their podcast as a live stream. They do it live and then they just publish it to the podcast playlist, and that's all they do. So it would mean that you would have to get beyond the mistakes that you create in a video podcast. You would have to get beyond those things if you're doing a live stream. And live streams show the authenticity of who you are. They show that you're human. I understand this from the perspective of a radio personality, because every night when I go live, the mistakes exist. They're there. When you watch this or listen to this podcast, all my mistakes are live as is. There are podcast purists that disagree with this, and there are people who are like, yeah, I like that there's authenticity. I tend to be the person that likes to be more authentic and not worry about what I have said, because I can always correct it in a future episode. So keep that in mind. And point number 14, they talked about visual strategies for audio-only podcasts. So if you have an audio-only podcast, this is what they do recommend. They recommend that you have transcripts that move across the screen. Now, what I can only assume is that if you have an audio-only podcast, you're uploading natively into YouTube, it means that you might need to create a static thumbnail where there is possibly some transcripts or there's captions that are going across the screen that you're creating in your video editing program. But you still need to have that SRT file that is uploaded into YouTube for search benefit. Okay? So make sure you have things. You can have things like slideshows. They said you could use Google Slides if that makes more sense. And then they said if you're doing views where, say, it's you on the screen and it's just a host and you have a person who's not being recorded by video, they say just create an avatar. That's all. Just create an avatar and put it on the screen and just cut to that every now and again if you can. That's as simple as it can be. So those are my points right there on how you can optimize for video podcasts in 2025, according to this YouTube live podcasting event that I attended back in December. I have a few more points that I do want to get to coming up in the next break. We'll break it down and we will also sum up exactly the mindset that you need to be in when it comes down to creating a YouTube live podcast. You're listening to The Podcast Therapist. We'll be right back.
Podcast Therapist.
Are you ready to master the art of podcast interviews? Introducing Mastering Podcast Interviews by Shannon Hernandez, a comprehensive ebook designed to help you conduct exceptional interviews from preparation to promotion. Whether you're just starting out or looking to refine your skills, this ebook provides practical advice, tips, and techniques to enhance your interviewing prowess. Learn how to set clear objectives, research your guests, and craft engaging questions that resonate with your audience. With over 20 years of experience in the radio industry, Shannon Hernandez shares his insights on building rapport, maintaining conversation flow, and ensuring a smooth post-production process. This ebook also includes essential checklists and reflective prompts to help you continuously improve. Don't leave your interviews to chance. Use Mastering Podcast Interviews to elevate your podcasting game and create compelling content that stands out. Get your copy today and it will be delivered to your inbox immediately. Visit thepodcasttherapist.com/interviews to get your copy now and start mastering your podcast interviews.
Hey guys, it's Shannon, and when I decided I wanted to go ahead and start creating content all those years ago, I knew I needed a trusted website platform. I was managing multiple services, setting up API keys, and tracking all the costs became super overwhelming. Then I discovered Kajabi. Kajabi started helping out content creators like me and you sell courses, but they've grown into so much more than that. They're an all-in-one platform that lets you build a website, manage your email marketing, set up sales funnels, and of course, host all of your courses in one place. But they also allow you to host your podcast, including paid or hidden ones for members who want to be a part of your own community. Plus, Kajabi offers an integrated community, just like Facebook groups, but within your own website. They give you detailed analytics and even a branded app. Using Kajabi has simplified my workflow and it's boosted my own productivity. If you want to learn more, you can use my affiliate link at thepodcasttherapist.com/Kajabi, or you can find the link in the show notes of your podcast player for this episode to go ahead and get started. Kajabi, it's the perfect tool to elevate your content creation and reach more people who are passionate about your work. Hey, what's up? It's Shannon. And if you're tired of spending too much time and money on podcast transcriptions, let me tell you about Descript. Now, before Descript, I spent a fortune on other services to transcribe my 40-minute to hour-long podcast and even some of my YouTube videos. But now I just upload my audio to Descript and it handles the rest. The transcriptions are super accurate and they capture every word. The app even lets me remove the filler words so my transcriptions can look clean and professional on my website for the transcription section. And Descript is also a game changer for video content. After recording, Descript provides a transcript of your audio, and then you can edit your audio just by editing the text. Simple cut, copy, and paste just to make precise edits. I'll take it. You don't even need advanced audio editing skills for this. Plus, Descript has all kinds of other amazing features like eye correction for video, creating audiograms for social media, the overdub feature for making corrections, and real-time collaboration if you have a team. So stop wasting time and money on other services. Check out Descript at my affiliate link at thepodcasttherapist.com/getdescript. Or if you can't remember the address, check the link in the show notes of your podcast player for this episode. Give it a try. You'll see how Descript will change the way you create podcasts and videos.
Hey there, podcast lovers. Do you ever find yourself at a crossroads struggling with life's big decisions? I'm Adam, and I know exactly how you feel. I've been there, faced with overwhelming choices and uncertainty, not knowing where to turn or who to trust. That's why I created the Decision Hour, a podcast designed to guide you through life's toughest choices. In the Decision Hour, we dive deep into real-life stories, offering expert advice and practical tips to help you make those tough choices with confidence. But that's not all. We also feature interviews with inspiring individuals who have faced similar challenges and have come out stronger. Plus, you get to access our exclusive community, where you can share your experiences, get support, and connect with like-minded people. So if you're ready to take control of your life and make decisions that truly matter, tune in to The Decision Hour. Visit our website at thedecisionhour.com to start your journey today. Remember, the power to make great decisions is just one click away.
A few years ago, I got a gift from my sister that honestly, I wasn't sure I'd ever use. It was called a Rocketbook. And at first I thought, it's just a notebook, right? But once I started using it, I realized how wrong I was. Now, as a podcaster, staying organized is everything. You know this. And Rocketbook, it's been the game changer for me. It's a reusable notebook that works with special friction pens. You write in it like you would with regular paper, but here's where it gets really cool. With the Rocketbook app, you can scan your notes and send them to your cloud storage, Google Drive, or Dropbox, and share them with people that you trust. I've used a Rocketbook to map out podcast episodes, organize meeting notes, and even keep track of tasks. And thanks to the icons at the bottom of each page, I can instantly send my notes to the right folder without lifting a finger, just using the app. And I know you might be asking yourself, what happens when the notebook is full? Well, you're able to just go ahead and wipe it clean and start fresh. Rocketbook has been a huge part of rebooting the Podcast Therapist, and it keeps me organized without wasting paper or losing track of ideas. So if you want to stay on top of your projects and keep everything in one place, check out Rocketbook at thepodcasttherapist.com/Rocketbook, or you can find the link in the show notes of this particular episode today. And just a note, that is my affiliate, so I may earn a small commission if you go ahead and decide to try it. Welcome back to the Podcast Therapist. We're going to close out this episode with a few more final thoughts. I want to cover a few more points that were in that YouTube live event, and I think it will help you out when it comes down to some of the features that are on YouTube, okay? Also, those features being like the community tab. We'll talk about some shorts and long form content. And what is the ideal podcast length for YouTube? Does that differ from audio podcasts at all? So we'll just get into that here very shortly, and then we are going to talk with you a bit about strategy, and then we'll close out the show. Okay. So again, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the Podcast Therapist. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure on YouTube you're giving it a thumbs up and a like, and leave a comment down in the section below. That helps get the video out into the feed for more people to view it. And of course, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're leaving also that review. That also I wouldn't say it's similar to how the behaviors of how YouTube videos get out there, but it does help, and it shows that the podcast is of value and people will enjoy what they are listening to. Okay, so I really do appreciate that very, very much. So let's go ahead and jump into our next points here. Okay, so I have point number 15. I might have all these points all different if I'm looking at it. Well, I had point number 14 in the last segment, so I guess I'm on track here. So point number 15 is that they said, what are the best ways to use the community tab on YouTube? So that is one way that you can gain engagement on YouTube when you're creating YouTube videos for podcasts, is that they say you can ask what topic to talk about next. I've done this in the past before. You can also tease an upcoming episode, or they say GIFs. I don't know if you say GIFs or if you say GIFs, but GIFs are big too. So if you can create a GIF or put a GIF on the community tab, you'll see it on there if you have access to it. They say, go ahead and utilize that. They say that polls are huge. If you can ask a question and put a poll up on the community tab, you can gather some data and figure out what to talk about next. So my recommendation for you would be that I would brainstorm some ideas of potential topics, publish it for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then see what data you get from that. And then you can talk about that and tease that episode. That's one way that you can go ahead and get people excited about listening to that podcast, whether it be on YouTube podcasts or Apple or Spotify or whatever app that someone is listening to. You're still teasing that episode so that they can listen. Okay. So make sure you're using that community tab. I'm kind of lacking on using the community tab, I'll admit, but it is something that I am planning on doing in 2025, okay? Point number 6, the question was asked, should I do shorts or long form content? They answered both. According to YouTube, they said both. Both can help increase the visibility of your podcast. Shorts specifically have features to where you can point them directly to a podcast. All right. So if you do a quick short, and I believe the shorts length I think they're beyond a minute now, you can go ahead and create those pieces of content that will allow you to put a link or a video from the short to go to the long form piece of content, which could be your podcast. All right. Or maybe you're creating just video podcast tutorials. You can still do a short and point to those videos. That's one way of gathering traction. Okay. I would say though, just pick one that is going to not overwhelm you. So you're already going to be creating one piece of long form content. So if you need to promote and use shorts, then I say go ahead and pick shorts to create a 1 minute video that points to that long form piece of content, which will be your YouTube video. Okay. So let me see what my point is here. I wrote this down. If using short, create engaging shorts using a tool like Descript. So this is the reason why I keep Descript around. I was using it primarily for transcripts, but now that I know how to use it and create short form content that is vertical, I am keeping Descript around. I know there's many other ways that you can do this in other apps. I just happen to use Descript. I may have to do a tutorial on this to show you exactly how to create it, but I know there's tutorials that exist out there on YouTube right now that talk about this, okay? And point number 17, they asked the question, what is the ideal podcast length? Well, they said it could be anywhere between 15 minutes to 3 hours. And I would say that tracks. You can make a podcast as long as you want. I have friends that do podcasts that are 3 hours long. Whereas I have seen podcasts, I listened to a great podcast yesterday where I got the point across in 15 minutes. So it's up to you on how you want to do it. But this is all based on your objectives. If your objectives as a business is to try to get leads, maybe a shorter podcast will be worth it for you. But maybe if your podcast or your objective as a business owner is to create another line of income, maybe a longer podcast would be your objective. And I can get into those philosophies a little bit later. Okay. So those are all the points that I had that I've whittled down. I whittled it down to 17 points. They were 25 points. I've whittled it down to 17. I know it seems like it's way more than that. It's a lot. I do understand that, but this is why you can go back and you can listen. This is why you can go see the time codes and skip to the areas that you want to listen to that were important to you. Okay. Now I want to go into this next segment or this next part by giving you a quote. Now, I've been listening to this book called Master of Change by the author Brad Stulberg. I'll leave a link to the book in the description below. It is an affiliate link, so just know there's a commission that could come my way, and it does help me out. But this book has been great. I'm a big proponent of adapting to change. I think change is one of the things that is always constant, and we have to all be ready to adapt to it. This book, I'll probably listen to it 2 or 3 times. Okay. But in that book, I do know that, well, here's the thing. I know that Brad has been sharing quotes from his book on social media for the past, I would say like 2 or 3 weeks. We're a couple weeks out of, from Christmas, past Christmas. He's been promoting his book, trying to get some sales. Hey, good on you, Brad. I get it. But here's the thing. He's been sharing quotes from that book, Master of Change. And the quote that really resonated with me that I saw on Instagram the other day, and I want you to take note of it because this is something that I think will apply to you as the podcaster who may be hesitant to create a video podcast. Here's the quote. Everyone loves to talk about the peak experiences and transcendent moments, but they only arise after you've been consistently doing the day-to-day boring stuff, the stuff that most people aren't disciplined enough to do for some prior period of time. So in other words, the people who are seeing the top of the mountain, they are taking the time to do the things that may seem mundane, difficult. They're doing the things that no one else is willing to do, doing the things that no one else is willing to learn. And this has to be a part of your strategy. You have to be willing to jump in, learn the mechanics of how YouTube works, and then apply it to your business so that you can get the traction and the marketing back to your business website. So doing the hard thing can actually come out better for you in the end. I want to leave you also with another thought process, and this is not part of my notes. A friend of mine yesterday on LinkedIn, she had made a post about doing hard things. And it reminded me of this portion of a book that I had read years ago by Tim S. Grover in the book Relentless. Tim S. Grover was Michael Jordan's strength and conditioning coach when Michael was with the Chicago Bulls. And there was a part in that book where Tim had said that the Chicago Bulls, when they would go into a scrimmage practice every time, when they were at their peak, when they practiced, they didn't practice they didn't do just like I'll call it in practice. They practiced as if they were playing a real game that was going to be recorded as part of their record, but they were doing it in practice. And he said by utilizing this philosophy, it made the Chicago Bulls far more dominant in the NBA. So players in practice would get upset because Michael would play so hard and he would push all of his teammates so hard, but they all reaped the rewards when they went on to win championships. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that like Michael, but what I am saying is that when you work hard and you start understanding the mechanics of what you can do inside of YouTube, that hard work starts to become habit and it's not so hard after a while. It's like anything that you do. It's like an exercise routine. So that's one last point that I wanted to make. That's one point I wanted to make. The last point that I want to make is that when it comes down to figuring out your strategy on YouTube, you got to ask yourself, how is this going to benefit my business? I've written down 4 points here. Okay. Well, let's put it this way. I've written down 4 points, but let's be a little promotional. All right. We can do a deep dive on these strategies to create a workflow that will work for you. I've created that workflow. I've mentioned that workflow. It's in a bonus episode that is available for you at thepodcasttherapist.com/ad free. You can get a free trial of listening. I am now starting to upload more and more. I'm going to start uploading episodes earlier, but you're going to be getting the ad-free version of this podcast, and you're going to be getting a bonus episode of that workflow that is going to exist for you. So I recorded it last night. It should be available for you to go ahead and check out for yourself. But here's the thing, your support on the ad-free version, it's going to help me grow as my own program. I want to try to make it as easy as possible for you to succeed in your business. And like I said, the episodes are going to be ahead of time. They're going to be earlier. They're going to be ad-free. And the bonus episodes, they're going to be without ads. And they're going to be just in their entirety. So you won't have to wait around too long. All right. So that's what we're looking at in terms of strategy. I have more strategy pieces available for you to go ahead and consume. I want to wish you nothing but the best of luck if you decide that you want to go ahead and do a YouTube podcast. I know there is a lot to go ahead and digest, but I want to be the first one to encourage you that these are things that will allow you to become a better podcaster, that will allow you to become a better business owner, that will allow you to get more leads and the ideal customers that you are looking for in your business. I certainly hope that you do go listen to that bonus episode at thepodcasttherapist.com/ad free. Until next week, have a great one and happy podcasting.
Podcast Therapist.